Welcome, everyone. This is Beth Gerber from LightText, and I am very happy to be here today to deliver the second in a three-part webinar series on Adobe RoboHelp. This one is called Creating an Indispensable Resource versus a Standard Help System. So the three parts of this series are listed here. The first one was recorded in February. And that's where we created style sheets and topic layouts and web templates where we could populate our content and it was branded to our organization or product or whatever it was that we were populating. And today we are going to learn how to use the various features and functionality in RoboHelp to transform our content from static documentation into something that becomes very important and very useful for your end users. And finally, in July, we will talk about publishing and go through publishing web, Word, PDF outputs, and how to single source content to streamline our publishing process. A little bit about our company. We've been consulting for over 30 years, primarily in the financial services and government industries. These industries are highly regulated. There are a lot of policies, procedures, systems, processes, products. There are a lot of clients, customers, vendors, third parties. So they have to have content that is dynamic and is able to manage to all of those different requirements. Our services at LightText wrap around that. We actually work with our clients to develop policy and procedure and user guides. We create help systems using Adobe RoboHelp. We create customized training programs. We facilitate those, and we do a lot of business analysis and process mapping. Okay, so before we even dive into the presentation and the actual doing of these various items, there are some questions that you should ask your end users. And if you're thinking about RoboHelp as a solution for your company, or if you have an existing project or projects that maybe aren't working as well for you right now, it's really important that you have this conversation with your sponsors and your end users. So that you understand what their current pain points are or what they'd like to experience, so that you can match the right feature as a solution to those pain points or opportunities. So, things that you might commonly hear, I certainly commonly hear them in my experience, is I can't find anything. Everything is disorganized. It's not standardized. It's a lot of duplication. It's too much to sift through. It's not detailed. It's too detailed. I'm spending way too much time publishing. There's contradictory information. I can't track information in my documentation. Those are just some examples of things that you might hear. So when you hear those pain points, then you can think about what opportunities are available in RoboHelp, and there's typically, more than one, and you can prototype those options for your customer. But if I were to take the features and functionality and categorize them, I would say that if readability is an issue, there's a lot of content utilizing drop downs for screenshots, expandable text for examples and ancillary information, microcontent for quick answers, and topic layouts a little bit more structured for readability would be great solutions. If there's a lot of duplication, single source options like snippets, glossary, utilizing condition tags to create content filters and publishing outputs are a great idea. Navigatability, having a hard time getting through my content, adding a structured index can help with the full text search options, adding content filters, structuring your table of contents with bookmarks and making that a little bit more robust. Adding browse sequences into your table of contents can help. Content management, if there's not a lot of consistency, that's where topic layouts can really help you. Populating the headers and footers with information that helps the end users, and utilizing some of the features in RoboHelp that I think are a little bit underutilized, like topic status and creating unique file names, so you as an authoring team can report out information and help your end users with content management. So I'm going to provide 3 customer experiences that we've had where I can help demonstrate how we identified what the needs were, found the solutions in RoboHelp, and measured the results. So City National Bank is one of our clients. They have a lot of regulations, and their risk partners require those regulations to be identified on their procedures, but they have to find them also. They had to have procedures have certain labels in all of their content, so the content had to be very structured, it had to be reported on, and Word as well as web outputs were required because they had an annual certification process where they put Word documents through a SharePoint certification module, and they're consistently reviewed by the end users. So the solution was to customize the headings with drop-downs and regulations so that all of that information was highly visible to the end user. We created a lot of drop-downs to hide screenshots because they were very screenshot heavy, had a nice structured topic layout, so there was a lot of consistency within procedures. We tracked the status, we created content filters, and we had multiple publishing layouts. So the result was that the regulations were clearly labeled and identifiable based on the filters that we set up. Procedures were very consistent. They went through an annual certification process, and they've been going through it for at least 5 years now. So it's a really fluid process. Best result ever is that there are fewer audit findings, and there is a very high user acceptance of the content. First Citizens Bank, we manage their commercial risk manual, and there are a lot of document types, procedures, standards, policies, extremely acronym heavy. They're very long topics, and they require Word, PDF, and web outputs, and they all have to look perfect. So our solution for them was a very good topic layout, a global glossary to handle the acronyms, really beefing up the table of contents with bookmarks, providing content filters so you could filter standards versus procedures versus policies. And at the end, there's a lot of consistency. There's a global accessibility for acronyms, editable Word documents, a lot of improved navigation, and they also find it an indispensable resource. And finally, the last experience that I will share is with the state of Vermont. This is what we used for our first demonstration. This is a public-facing manual, so everything I share here is available to the public. But they had a very unique numbering style that they had to implement with their procedures to be in compliance with their state partners. They had to have versions customized for public viewing, for their support teams, for their state partners. There was tons of duplication, and they were creating 3 complete different sets for those 3 entities, and not using it as a single source to create different publishing layouts. So the solution for them was to create a very stylized style sheet that incorporated their numbering scheme, microcontent to help them find quick answers, a global glossary. Snippets were used a lot to reduce duplication, and really creating some structured publishing layouts so that they could reduce their publishing time. And the result was they have glossary terms that are hotspotted all over their content. It's very consistent. Utilizing the snippets along with the hotspots really reduced the number of hyperlinks and jumps between topics. There was much faster authoring and publishing time on the part of the authoring team, and there were customized outputs for each one of those end users. So Today, we are going to demo microcontent, snippets, drop down and expandable text, content filters, browse sequences, glossary, index, and a customized table of contents. So I'm going to end this slideshow and jump into the demo. And I'm going to start here and show you first what their manual used to look like and what it looked like once it was retooled and rebranded. So here's the existing manual. This is a prior version that's just a web help layout. You can see that there's just, kind of a generic look. There's a lot of underlining, so there's, not a lot of understanding as to what is a hyperlink, what isn't. These hyperlinks are either to other topics or, in many cases, they are to a glossary topic. So they didn't use the global glossary. Instead, they created a topic called glossary, and they added all of their terms into this global glossary. So anytime one of these items is referenced, the end user jumps from the topic into this particular glossary. So I'll show you an example of that. If I go here to this particular topic and I click on disabled, I get to the disabled definition in the glossary, but some of these have an additional loop. If I wanted to find out what is considered permanent disability, I click here and it takes me into a further definition. So I've already jumped a couple of times before I even get back to the topic that I was in. They also have as well as a global glossary, they have a tables section. So this was important to them to have all of their calculation tables in one particular topic. But at the same time, they needed to reference these tables in almost every topic. So if I go here into determining income and deductions, and if I click on net income limit, you can see that I'm jumping to this particular table in the table section. So that happens all over. You can see, again, there's another reference to disabled or senior. So there's a lot of jumping around in this manual and also a lot of duplication. So I'm going to now transfer to the new manual. And this is the one that we recreated. And you can see that this is branded. I mean, it has their colors. It's got a little bit, it's got a much improved interface. There's a very structured numbering style that they were required to use. So that was set up in the style sheet and it's all applied automatically. And for these long topics, we have topic table of contents, which is very helpful. So just right here, it looks very nice. But let me go to my favorites and I will show you those two topics again, that I just showed you. This one, if I go to disabled, instead of it taking me to another topic, it simply dropped down where I needed to see the information. And instead of taking me to a secondary definition, this also drops down. So I've just eliminated two jumps. These are accomplished through snippets. So the snippet is used in multiple locations, but it's only done once. So if I modify anything in this snippet, it modifies it in all areas. So that was a big time saver for these folks. Okay, if you go over to determining income and deductions, if I go to this calculation and I go to net income limit, same thing. Here we've added this table in as a snippet and put it in a drop-down so someone can see it if they need to, but they don't have to navigate off their page. But it's also available in their tables. So if they want to see it in this table topic, they can as well. We added some expanding text hotspots. So these legal references and citations are only used by one type of audience. So we tried to declutter a little bit by, hiding and showing those as necessary. You can see that the glossary lives here. And let me go to these terms are also hot-spotted within the text. So if I click on FPL, this means federal poverty level. This matches the global glossary, and it shows up as a pop-up. It can also show up as an expanding text if we'd like, but we have all of this staying on the same page, and it eliminated lots and lots of jumps. We also added in some microcontent. So if I were to go back up to the top here, if I was to search disability or disabled, a little quick microcontent question and answer appears. So if I just want to know, well, who is eligible for the food and nutrition program, I get my quick answer here, and it contains everything that's necessary for this piece of information. You can see just so happens that our drop downs and our snippets are available here. If there were images, that would be available. If I wanted to read more, I could go right into the topic and see that. So an index where we're able to help hone in search. Application is probably something that's used everywhere in this topic, but we're able to keep it a little bit more honed results, if you will. Okay, so now that we've kind of taken a look at the before and after, we will go into RoboHelp and we'll start to replicate some of this. All right, so for those of you who were here in our last seminar, and if you're not familiar with the layout, this is where we do all of our authoring in RoboHelp. And we have our contents here, which is sort of like your file explorer, and it has everything that we need to build our help system. So we built a customized style sheet where we have our fonts and our colors, our paragraph style, our heading styles, etc., that we set up the last time, bulleted styles, numbered styles, etc. So we've got those. We also have a topic layout we called Vermont, and this controlled our header and our footer. So we have these elements available in all of our topics. Okay, I'm going to go back to contents, and I added a few more topics in here so that we could work with these. But let's start with some of our single source issues. So again, I might be hearing that there's a lot of duplication or we're doing a lot of jumping. And so I would like to take care of this glossary and make this part of our global glossary and remove this as a page so that folks can see whatever they need to see. So I'm going to go to my glossary right here. And just taking a look at this, there are some terms here that make great glossary terms, one sentence, one small paragraph, etc. It's not going to accept hyperlinks. So, that's just something that I'll have to manage. It also will not take these long formatted bulleted lists. That's, not the experience in this global glossary. So, but that's okay because we're going to manage those a little bit differently through snippets. So let's go ahead at least and add a few glossary terms. So if I wanted to add in 3 Squares, Vermont, I can take that content and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go over to my authoring panel and click on glossary. We are given a default glossary. You can actually click here plus and add in an additional glossary, but one is typically sufficient. I guess I already added that 3 squares Vermont, so we'll choose something else. We will, addiction treatment centers, we'll use that. So I am going to, now that I'm in this default, I'm going to click on the plus, and I'm going to add in the term addiction treatment centers, and paste my definition or just type it. I like to get rid of the period because if we structure this to be an expandable text, it will show up when you click on the term, and it won't look good to have a period in the middle of a expanded text. So I take those out. So we're going to go ahead and click on done. And let me see if I can see another one that might be appropriate. I might want to take something like caper, and this one has some bulleted issues, but I'll show you how I would manage that in this glossary. I'm going to click on new term, and I'm going to call it caper. And I'm going to say case and define it, and then paste in my information. And instead of the bullets, because it doesn't really adhere to that, I'm going to give this a 1, give this a 2, give this a 3, and give this a 4. And now I have a paragraph that sort of will look appropriate in a glossary term. So I'm going to go ahead and click on done. And now I've added a couple of these to my glossary. So we added a few others when we were working on the content the first time around. And let's go back to a topic and take a look at this. So I'm going to go to my contents. And let's go ahead and look at resources. And if I was to look at my glossary, and I might want to say 3 SVT households that are SCE or ECE are resource eligible, I can just drag and drop that glossary term right there if I wanted to add that. If I want to take a look at it, if I click on it here, it won't appear. But if I look in the preview mode, I can preview it, and the definition appears right there in my content. So that looks good. If I just want to, if I had the word SCE right here, and I actually happen to have that in my my glossary, I can drag and drop it over that particular word or acronym, and the definition will pop up. So if I'd like, after I would be going through that entire glossary and adding it to my global glossary as appropriate. If I wanted to, because these terms are all over the place in multiple places in a particular topic and also in many others, I can use the hotspot tool, and I can select terms, any of these. I might just want to do that particular one. I look at all topics, or maybe just the topic that I'm in, current topic, and then add manually for each topic or automatically. Personally, my opinion is with so many of these acronyms, it's good to spell it out just once. But I think actually they like to have it hotspotted wherever it appears. So that would be a good tool for this particular client. So you can use that if you'd like to. Okay, so I'm going to get out of that. And then we'll look at the second type of glossary term that's not going to be handled in our global glossary because it's too much information. It's more than just a quick glossary definition. It's actually a little bit more of a robust definition, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and deal with this word disabled. So if I go back to my glossary, and I'm going to go to that disabled, which involves not only this definition right here, a person who is considered disabled, but also permanent disability information. And instead of putting this in my global glossary, I am going to make this into a snippet so that I can put it in a drop-down hotspot and use it wherever I'd like. So I'm going to do that by selecting this content and copying it to my clipboard. And then I'm going to go to my authoring panel and click on snippets. And we're going to use our default snippet category. And we're going to click on the plus sign. And we're going to add a new snippet. And we're going to call this disabled. And you can, if you have a lot of snippets, you can categorize them. Like I could categorize them by definitions versus tables. You know, that would be a good thing to do. Right now, I'll just go ahead and use the default. You can add a description if you want. You don't have to. But I'm going to then click on create. Okay, so this appears just like a topic. It has a lot of the same properties. It has a name that can be changed. I know it's a snippet because it has an HTS extension. I can give it it's using my Vermont style sheet. It can have condition tags. It can have whatever it wants, and it can be stylized. So I'm going to paste my definition here. And I could even do things to it, like I think if I wanted to add SSI, to my glossary, I can take that information and just make that a glossary term, and that will replace that whole sentence. So I can work with this if I want. So I've got a snippet called disabled, but I also have this other content, this disability considered permanent. So I'm going to remove that hyperlink because it's hyperlinking to that glossary section. I'm going to remove all three instances. And now I'm going to go back to my glossary, and I am going to capture this information. And I'm going to go back to my snippet. And I am going to select that text. And then I'm going to go up to my top toolbar here. And I'm going to click and create drop-down text. And I am going to paste that content right in that little box. So it didn't automatically accept my bullets. So I'm going to add those bullets back in because they're important. This will just take a minute. Okay, so I'm going to take those items, and then I'm going to go to my style sheet, and I'm going to give them an ordered list. So here's the bullets right here. So I have built a drop-down hotspot within my snippet. So if I click on it, it collapses, and I can just copy and paste it in these other sections if I'd like to. If I want to see that in the preview mode, I can do that as well. So that works exactly as I'd like it to. Okay, so my snippet now is perfect. It's set up as I'd like it to be. So I'm going to go back to resources, and I'm going to go to this word disabled, and I am going to click on create drop-down text, and I am going to select type your drop-down text here. I'm just going to backspace to get rid of that. And then I can either go to my snippets panel. From my authoring tab, I will go to snippets and I can drag and drop it there. Or I can click on the brackets up here and click on snippet and select disabled and click on insert. And now my snippet is available here, and I can collapse it. So if I test that, I'm going to look at preview, and I see that I have disabled, and again, I have a secondary, more involved definition for permanent disabilities, all available right here. So I eliminated, 2 extra hyperlinks and jumps and helped the end user stay on the place that they were in. So let's do that in another fashion. We're going to go here to determining income. And I'm going to kind of go to the end here where we talk about net income. And that was a link to the tables item right there. So I'm going to remove that hyperlink. And I'm going to go to my tables. And I believe that it's this table right here. It's this income limits and maximum benefit. So I am going to take that, just that amount. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and I'm going to go back to my snippets, and I'm going to click on the plus sign, click on snippet, and I'm just going to call this income table. I'm going to use the default item and click on create. It's not as stylized because we didn't do that in our current version when we created this prototype. But the table is there using my style sheet. And if I go to that topic, determining income, I can select that information. And this time I'll just drag, we're going to make this into a snippet. So I'm going to create a drop down. Move that text, and this time I'll just drag and drop that income table right there. And if I preview that, you can see I also know that it's not just a hyperlink, that I'm actually going to get a drop down because it is it has a different kind of stylized look. So that'll help me as an end user quite a bit. So I can also now go back to my tables, and I can delete this from my tables, and I can drag and drop my income table here as well. So now I have it in both places. And if I ever want to update my income table, I would do it in my snippet, and then that change would take place globally. So very important for this particular use case, and I hope that you can think about that, how that could possibly be used in yours as well. Okay, so we have looked at some drop-downs, some snippets, some glossary terms. All of those are single source types of features and functionality that we can add into our help system to improve the user and the authoring team's experience. So let's look at another type of element that we can add in. In this particular case, I mentioned it earlier, but there are a lot of citations that are noted for their legal base, which actually there's only one party that cares about this. So this is a good piece of information to hide and allow to be expanded if the user wants to see it. So I'm going to take this information and I'll just copy it for right now. And I'm going to just write the word legal base. And I'm going to select that item right there. And this time I'm going to go to the top toolbar and I'm going to click on Create Expanding Text and click out of it. And over that, I am going to paste the legal citation. And if I collapse it, it's only available if somebody wants to click on it. So a good way for me to just kind of, again, sort of manage a large amount of content. It's a very small thing, but it can be helpful to hide and show some of these particular items. Okay, so now that we've worked on that, we're going to start talking about navigatability and helping with especially some of these long projects and topics, how we can improve the experience through something like microcontent. You can see that these are very, very long topics. I'm just going to scroll through here so that you kind of have an understanding of how long these are. And there are lots of users to this particular manual. So I may want to help my end user with these long scrolling topics by giving them some quick answers to questions and then allowing them the opportunity to see additional details as needed. So to do that, I can create a microcontent group and add frequently asked questions. So I am going to go to my authoring panel and then microcontent, and my microcontent group appears right here. I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to call this group FAQs. And I'm going to click done. And I'm going to go back to that resources so I have a good understanding of the question. I'm just going to say, when are households ineligible for benefits? So I'm going to go back to my FAQ, and my intent is always in the form of a question. So when are households ineligible for the SNAP program? And I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. When I do that, it's important in RoboHelp to save frequently because then my intent will have been memorized and I can work with that. So now I have a question and now I need to find the answer. So I am going to go back to resources where I have the answer, which is right here. And I'm going to select that piece of information. After that, I'm going to right click and I'm going to add to microcontent. And the group is FAQs. That's the only group I have. And I will select the intent. Right now, I only have one. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to click on apply. If I go back to my FAQs, it takes a minute, but the response will populate. I go ahead and click on Save All. There we go. So if I ever update this content in resources, and I can just do so, I can treat this however I'd like. I can add bullets, I can add drop downs, I can images, anything I want to do to this text is perfectly fine, and it will all update accordingly in my FAQs. Another way that I can do this is by I'm going to add another intent below, and I can keep on adding this as long as I'd like. But I'm going to maybe just do a freehand question like, what are the business hours for SNAP, the Food and Nutritional Program. And maybe that isn't anywhere in my content, but I know that that's something that comes up a lot. And I can just type it in and say the business hours are Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. So this is not something that is in my content anywhere. So if I need to update that, I would just have to do it manually. But I'm going to go ahead and click on Save All, and we'll be able to test this when we generate our output. So we can't test it right now, but we've got it set up so that once we run our output and look at our web output, it will appear. So let's go to our contents. And I'm going to click out of those FAQs. And you can have as many of these FAQ pages as you'd like. You know, you might have one specific for every topic, or there might be categories of frequently asked questions. It would be perfectly appropriate to have more than one of these in your content. Okay, so we're going to leave that as it is. And now let's go into our index and populate that a bit. Again, just like our glossary, this is something that's global, or our table of contents. This is global to our experience. So a index, if I click here, author index, these are keywords that I find that people ask. So this is great for things like jargon, and when you have lots of glossaries, or if you have a lot of repetition, like the word application, maybe it's everywhere, but you want to get the end user to the most relevant results, you can use an index to do so. So the way that you build an index is to go to a topic, and an especially good practice is you've authored the topic, and you know that you need to finish it up by adding an index. So I am going to go over here to my topic properties. I just clicked on that. And then I'm going to scroll down, collapse some of this to my index, and I'm going to add in some keywords. So I might want to add in resource limits. That's already there. So I will put in disabled and TANF, etc. I could keep on going and put those in so that that helps the user get to this liquid more easily than if they went through a full text search and had too many results. So it's a good thing to add to large repositories. Okay. Another feature that we're going to add is a browse sequence. So this topic, resources, as we've talked about, is quite large, as are most of theirs. They've got lots and lots of sections. It goes on for a long time. It's a little bit hard to navigate. Another option for this group is to split this out into maybe additional topics. So I took the resources topic and put it in here. And then I created subtopics, one countable, one excluded, one transfers, one vehicle, one verification. And this one, I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of this out because this has already been used in the mini topics. Okay. All right. So since we have that, one thing that we could do is add this to our table of contents as a section as opposed to a topic, and add a browse sequence to help people get through this topic appropriately. So if I were to go to my table of contents right here, I'm going to double click on default. You can see that I added resources as a section just by simply clicking on insert section, and I called it resources. And then I simply went to my contents and added those underneath this particular topic. Okay, I've just duplicated that, so I'm going to cut that out. All right. Okay, so I have structured this so that it's in smaller topics, smaller chunks now, but maybe I want to help my end user by making sure that they look at this topic sequentially, because maybe that's important that they do that. Browse sequences might be more important when you are going through like a systems process or a series of steps for an application that must be done in a particular order. We can add a little utility in our web-based experience that helps us navigate through these sequences. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Author and then Browse Sequence. And I'm going to add a browse sequence, and I'm going to call this Resources. And now I have a browse sequence called Resources, and now I'm going to drop my topic or TOC here. So I can actually just go to my table of contents, and I'm going to take this whole TOC and just drag it right there. And these are, I can change the order if I like by moving these things up and down. But I have a browse sequence that says, give me a little arrow that shows me how to navigate through these topics. So we've got it set up. And when we generate our output, we will establish that browse sequence to be used. Okay. Finally, we are going to add in a content filter so that we can help our end users filter their content in a way that's relevant to them. So we don't have a lot in this little prototype, but maybe we could say that there are two main areas in the group, that there's application and evaluation. And some of these topics have to do with evaluation and some have to do with topics or applications. So we are going to set up some condition tags for those two scenarios, and we will apply them to these particular topics. So if I go to my authoring panel and then go to condition tags, two came out of the box, but I'm going to add a brand new tag by clicking on the plus button. And I'm going to I can do this by audience, platform, product, properties, others. I can create my own group if I'd like, but maybe I'll just put it in others, and I will call this one audience. And I will give it a background of this bright blue. And now I'm going to create another tag, and I'm going to give it the others group, and I'm going to call this one evaluation. Oops. And I'm going to give that a background of this olive, and I'm going to go ahead and click on apply and click on done. And this one I meant to call application, so let me just redo that and call it application. So the process of creating a content filter for your end user to be able to filter their content is a 3-part process. One is what we just did, which is creating the condition tag. Next, we need to go to our topics, and we're going to go in the contents here, and we will apply those condition tags to each one of our topics. So I am going to go into resources, and actually, and I'm going down to condition tags, and I'm going to give that a topic level condition tag of evaluation. And I'm going to do the same with excluded resources. This copy, I'm going to do the same thing. I can also apply these all at once using a list report, but I'm going to do them individually just for demonstration purposes. And I'm going to say that case management is also an evaluation, but I will say that determining income is maybe an application process, so I'll give that a different tag. And identity will be an application process. We're not going to use that other resources. We'll just use this tables. And I will give that a application category as well. Okay, so we have some categories identified, and once I clicked save, you can see that I can clearly see which ones have been identified using these particular condition tags right here. So I don't want to print my glossary and I don't want it to appear, so I'm going to give that another condition tag, and I'm going to call that one, this one is going to be just like an online, and I don't want to have that show up online. So with that said, I'm going to save. And now I'm going to go back to my table of contents, and I'm going to look at it in this manner. So I can see that here are all my items in my table of contents. I am going to not use this resource because I replaced it with the other one. And I'm going to take my microcontent that I created, this FAQ, and I'm going to put it on the top up here so that that appears. And that will be a topic all of its own, and it will have the 2 FAQs that we created available to it. So now I am going to, now that that's done, I'm going to go into my output settings, and we're going to generate our output and look at all the work that we've done. We do need to establish a couple more settings, and then we'll be able to generate this. So let's go now, flip from authoring to output. And we are going to go to dynamic content filters. And we're going to create a new filter, and we have to call it something, and I might just call it process. It's either going to be application or evaluation, or like maybe work phase or phase. And I'm going to click on done. And then I'm going to take the 2 tags that I created, application and evaluation, and put them right here in the filter. I can modify this a little bit. Instead of it saying select the options, I might want to say filter as desired, something like that. So we'll see how that appears once we generate the output. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save All, and then we're going to go to our output presets, and we're going to go to our frameless output, and we are going to do a few things here. We called this 3 Squares Vermont. We're going to go to our content. We added a browse sequence, so now we're going to select that. It's called resources, so I'm going to select it so that feature shows. Glossary style, we can either use expanding text, or we can use a pop-up or a tool tip. Let's see how that looks. Our dynamic content filter, we created one, and we're going to call that phase. So that is all set up for us. We're using a studio template that we established in our first webinar, so I'm just going to keep that as it is. We just did some rudimentary features and functionality there. And I think that's good enough to go. So let's go ahead and generate it and see what it looks like. Okay, so now that we're done, we'll take a look at this. In Google Chrome, we did a few rudimentary things to our homepage just to stylize it from the original out-of-the-box look to something that was a little bit more Vermont. So you can see that this mirrors our table of contents. We've added our FAQs, a few other things here. If we click on FAQs, you can see that those are available on an FAQ page. If I wanted to see if my microcontent is working, I can click on search and put in hours. And we've got that little piece of microcontent that came up. You can see that there's no link to additional information because that was static. But if we do put something in like ineligible, that came from this particular topic on resources, and we could read more about that here. So now that we're in here, let's take a look at some of the things that we did. Here's our glossary term that has expanding text. Again, what's nice about this is I know that as an end user, my glossary terms are going to be in this maroon look, so I know I'm not hyperlinking out somewhere. If I want to look at my drop down, I can look at that from disabled. I've got a glossary term in there. I've got another drop down, so that one worked out correctly. If I want to go into my resource category and look at countable resources, on the bottom right here is where my browse sequence showed up. So if I click on next, it will take me to the next. If you look at the left-hand side here, it's going to navigate me through this section in the appropriate way. Once I'm out of that, my browse sequence will go away. We created a content filter. So if I just want to look at the topics involved with applications, I can select that, and it shrunk just to include those items, plus the items that were not tagged because they're generic. If I wanted to look at evaluation, you can see it shrunk that way. So not do the filter here. And if we look at determining income and deductions, and we go down, I'm using this topic navigational item here. We look at net income limits, and if we look at the net income, we see our table. It appears just as it should here, as well as in our tables category. So we've added a lot of features and functionality in a short period of time. I hope that helps you understand how you can create something that works a lot better and is more tailored to your particular use case. So give it some thought. And if you ever want to bounce off ideas through me, feel free to reach out through any of my contacts. So that concludes this webinar, and I hope that you took away some ideas about how to customize your end user's experience. And I appreciate your attendance, and thank you very much.